Hello and welcome to What Culture Horror with myself, Andrew Pollard, and welcome to the first of two reviews coming this week. The other, why that is Good Boy in UK cinemas from October the 10th, and a film that has so much hype around it. I mean, I'm very excited to watch it, but also kind of terrified of it being like a proper heartbreaker. After all, Good Boy is a supernatural horror movie told from the perspective of, well, a good boy, a doggo whose human best pal is slowly taken over by something sinister. So, I mean, I am a sucker for anything involving animals. Yeah, we'll see how that one goes. But yes, we'll have a review of Good Boy up here at What Culture Horror ASAP, possibly even by the time you're watching this. So keep your eyes peeled for that. But today the review we've got on the table is for The Strangers Chapter 2, the second of Rennie Harlin's Strangers trilogy, now in cinemas worldwide. So let's get to it. Oh, this is an interesting one. Well, anything like this that's part of a franchise, any videos we do like this, I'd like to always kind of start by giving a brief overview where I stand on that particular franchise, just so you can see kind of like my taste and get an indicator of how you might also feel about this film. So, for The Strangers, I adore that first movie, Brian Bettino's movie. I got to see in the cinemas back in, 2008? That film, just absolutely shook me to my core. The idiot here myself, I terrified myself by going onto IMDb. This was back in the days where IMDb had like little message boards set up for every single film. And whenever I see a film, I'd always go and check out those little message boards. And yeah, the one for The Strangers just had a bunch of people telling their own stories about similar events that happened to them. Now, most of it was probably BS, but yeah, that just only further freaked me out. So yes, I love that first movie. I'm also one of those who digs Johannes Roberts' The Strangers Pray at Night. I mean, it wasn't as good as the first film, obviously, but it was a lot of fun. Plus, Total Eclipse of the Heart and that stunning neon-lit swimming pool sequence. Yes, chef's kiss, I believe, as the kids say. The Strangers Chapter 1, then. Well, I was really rooting for that, for this trilogy, but man, that was just such a disappointment, such a lazy retread of the original. And I know that was kind of partly by design to set up the second legs of that. But still, going into The Strangers Chapter 2, I'm a fairly positive guy usually, always full of hope and optimism. But then again, it's the hope that kills you, isn't it? That's what they say. But I went into Chapter 2 optimistic of this trilogy being turned around, and I always kind of root for Rennie Harlin, who, a fun fact here, was one of the very first people I ever interviewed many, many moons ago. Him and Robert Englund, actually, were the first two, which is kind of cool to think back on, like 13 years ago. Getting old, man. Time flies. So, The Strangers Chapter 2 very much follows the Halloween 2 route initially, opening up shortly after the events of Chapter 1, where Maya is in hospital following the events of the first movie. That's where her boyfriend Ryan was killed by the Strangers, and she was left, likewise believed to be dead. Of course, we, the audience, know that she survived that attack, but Man in the Mask, Pin-Up Girl, and Dollface, they do not. They think that she, like Ryan, died. I mean, I guess I should get in the habit again of calling Man in the Mask Scarecrow, because that's what we're doing with these trilogies, this trilogy for some reason. But when the locals of the small Oregon town of Venus hear that Maya actually survived, it doesn't take long before the Strangers appear at the local hospital where she is staying. Yes, we also get to see Maya telling her story to the police, who seem a little shady when they're told about the trio of mass killers. It's all a bit like nods and winks and, what's going on here? Before you know it, Maya is in another fight for her life, chased out of the hospital, across the local area, and incredibly paranoid about anything and anyone. Constantly on her toes at the thought that any of the locals who she encounters, they may well be one of the film's masked killers. Yep. That paranoia will get you. I should probably add too as well that Chapter 2 dives a little into the backstory of the Strangers, which will certainly split opinion. After all, horror, I mean, it's got such a mixed bag when pulling such tricks in looking behind the mask, I guess, shall we say. And after all, part of what made the original Strangers movie so great is that mystery, the unknown, the randomness, that we don't know who the killers are, we don't know their story, we just know that they're three psychopaths who kill on a whim, who kill because you're home, because you answered your door when they stopped by. So in taking some of that mystery away, like I said, that'll split opinion. I'll just leave it there. But performance-wise, Madeleine Petsch is great as Maya, doing her best with what's been given to her. Is one way I could put it, I guess. Getting the absolute best out of a script that is sadly a little underwhelming. I guess that's the apt phrase there. Yes, despite going into this with plenty of positivity, despite hoping for a drastic upgrade, on Chapter 1, Chapter 2 is just a disappointment, man. A very sad disappointment. The opening 20 minutes or so are a lot of fun, but then the film it loses its way. It really drags things out. It makes you question whether with 3 movies really needed when chapter 2 just it sags so much in the middle and even towards the end. And we're left with just there's a bunch of baffling decisions here, either by characters or by the people pulling the strings behind the camera. To be fair, you can commend chapter 2 for trying something a little different with its setting. I mean, it takes Maya across various locations rather than, the original movie and chapter 1 were largely just confined to one house, and Pray at Night that was just set in a trailer park. But so much of chapter 2 just feels there for the sake of being there, if that makes sense. For example, there's a I'm not going to go into spoilers here, so don't worry about that. But there's a bit where Maya is on the run through some woods, and there's a sequence that is just so out of place. Again, I don't want to give away spoilers, but she runs up against something else, shall we say, and this just feels tacked in just so that Maya has something to do at a point when she's actually put a fair amount of distance between herself and the strangers. It's like, we can't just have her escape. We can't have things go easy. So we need to give her something to do in the meantime. How about that? Plus, we'll give you another flashback about that. I don't want to say too much, like I said, for fear of minor spoilers, but it just totally comes out of nowhere. But then so much totally comes out of nowhere, like how the strangers themselves now have a slightly different MO to what we've been used to. Again, to reiterate, part of the thing here is that the strangers don't have any particular connections to their victims. They kill at random just because they get a kick out of it. No feeling towards their victims. Yet in chapter 2, they're back in action to finish the job, even though it's been previously shown that they wouldn't really care. They wouldn't really be so determined to hunt someone down like this to kind of finish what they started in chapter 1. Another gripe I've got, and there's many. I wish there weren't, but there is many. There are many. Another gripe I've got is that all the locals are just, they're written way too daftly. Like, everyone is just so menacingly over the top. Sure, chapter 2, like chapter 1, tries to set up people as potentially being one of the killers. That's kind of a mystery here that's at play. Who is the killer? Who's under the masks? But chapter 2 just tries way too hard to make everybody a suspect. Then again, I guess part of this, admittedly, could be to reflect Maya's state of mind after the attack of the first movie. She's on edge. She's paranoid. Everyone feels like a suspect. She's dealing with, I guess, PTSD, you'd say. But it's just, for me, yeah, it's way too ham-fisted and over the top. Also, for the gore hounds out there, to be fair, The Strangers has never really been about the gore, to be honest. But the bulk of the kills here are cut away from, happening off screen, making things feel a little, I don't know, PG-13. Kind of feeling that the R rating was a little pointless for this one. I mean, yeah, there's a bit of language in here, but that's about it. Although there is a bit of how could I put it, Rambo style self-care, I guess, at one point, but even that is kind of largely cut away from. In terms of the positives, because there are some, and I'm going to try and be nice and be positive. I always try and get something across. There's a really nice use of colours at times, especially during that hospital setting, the opening 20 minutes or so. A really nice use of reds, but I mean, then again, I am colourblind, so I always feel like I'm not really qualified to comment on colours. Either way, I dug the palette when things kick off at the hospital. And again, that first act, the opening 20 minutes, half an hour, that was pretty darn good, man. I enjoyed it a lot. But yeah, the film, it just falls apart a little from there. And again, Madeleine Petsch does a great job as the lead here, bringing her all to the role and making the best of things, but does the best that she can. And there is some properly hammy dialogue in there for everybody, to be fair. But there's also some great physical work from Petsch as well. I mean, large chunks of the movie, they kind of play out with no dialogue, and it kind of relies on her body language and physicality to get the message across. And hey, we've got Richard Brake. He's back as the town's old cop, and I'm always here for some Richard Brake, man. Just a lovely dude. Although even then, he spends most of the movie just sat in a diner, really. This film just feels like it's spinning its wheels. It's chase sequence, hide, chase sequence, hide for pretty much the entirety of the movie. Ladder, rinse, repeat. This Strangers Chapter 2, it should be far better than this. Reddy Harlan is better than this. But this is more of a chase movie than a horror movie, and not a very good chase movie, I should probably add. You kind of feel sorry for Madeleine Petsch here, just again doing her best to make things work, but that's like, how can I compare it? It's like trying to make a pizza when you've not got any dough, any cheese, any tomatoes, or any toppings. You're kind of facing a losing battle. And with those flashbacks, the fleshing out of the strangers somewhat, you would take away so much of what worked about the original movie, and what worked about Pray at Night as well, to be fair. So we've got a sequel full of dumb decisions, full of some incredibly ropey CGI at times, that gives us backstory that few people were asking for. And it's a sequel that just feels so unnecessary. This movie exists because Lionsgate decided to let Rennie Harlin direct a trilogy of movies that are already done that were shot at the same time. And let's be honest, they are easy to make a profit on. So, I mean, the reaction to Chapter 1 was bad. But when you've already got two films shot and in the can that will make you a quick dollar, Chapters 2 and 3, they were always going to get released, despite the problems around Chapter 2, including a bunch of reshoots. And their reshoots, I don't know what was done. But if this is an improvement of what we had originally for Chapter 2, geez, man. If looking for a rating for this one, The Strangest Chapter 2 gets I'm going to go a 3 out of 10, a 1.5 out of 5, an E, maybe a D at a push, because, hey, Richard Brake. But again, that just makes me frustrated when you've got someone like Richard Brake and do so little with him. This film, man. Well, I mean, will I be lining up to see The Strangest Chapter 3 when that releases, I believe, next year? Of course I will, because I'm an idiot, because I've slogged to get this far. So I at least want to see how Rennie Harlin tries to salvage things, how he tries to save this trilogy. Again, because it's the hope that kills you. With that, this has been What Culture Horror. I've been Andrew Pollard. The Strangers Chapter 2 is in cinemas worldwide now, and I'll be back later in the week with a review of Good Boy, which I'm hoping that I'm expecting should lead to a far more positive review than this one. Strangers Chapter 2, just such a stupid, stupid film.